Hello everybody, and welcome to my guide on DPS Warrior in Phase 3 of Season of Discovery. In this video, I'll be going over everything you need to know in order to do big damage in Phase 3 of Season of Discovery. If you have any questions, feel free to hit me up on Twitch or Discord, both of which will be linked in the description below. Now, similar to Phase 2, we have multiple specs we can play. We have Dual Wield Fury, Two-Handed Arms, and now Gladiator stance, which is a one-hander and a shield. All three specs are performing really closely to each other at the moment, with all three finding representation in top 10 across multiple fights. So far, I've played Two-Hander and Dual Wield and Raid, and both felt really good. I do think that Dual Wield and potentially Gladiator will pull ahead as the bosses get shorter due to the strength of Recklessness and Deathwish, as you can see in this clip right now. I'm going to be splitting this video into two parts, one for Two-Handed Arms and one for Dual Wield. And I guess I'll delve into Gladiator a little bit during the Dual Wield section. Now, before I split the video into Dual Wield and Two-Hander, I wanted to go over consumables. The consumables are pretty straightforward. They're kind of similar to last phase with like a couple additional consumables. We have our Agility consumable, which is Elixir of the Mongoose is the best one. If you want a cheaper option, you can go with Elixir of Greater Agility. For our Strength consumable, we have Elixir of Giants. There's no real alternative to this. For our AP consumable, we have a new one called Winterfall Firewater. This is the only AP consumable at the moment, and it's going to be the best. We have two new food consumables, Grilled Squid and Blessed Sunfruit. Ideally, you want to go for the Blessed Sunfruit, but this Revered grind is not really reasonable because like Stratholme is closed off and you'd have to just farm a ton of NPCs for this, which like not really anybody's going to do. We have a brand new consumable for the raid called the Atal'alarion Mojo of War. This is actually, you get this from turning in a consumable from the raid. You can turn this in at Yojamba Island with one flask of Atal'alarion Mojo. You can probably find these on the auction house for like a couple gold. This is a really good consumable, and I'd highly recommend using it. You'll notice here that we have Blasted Lance consumables. These actually do not stack with the Mojo, so we can completely disregard these. This Gift of Arthas is just for your tank, so it's not really relevant for you, but this is like a really big DPS increase, so you really want to urge your tank to use it. Might be kind of expensive though. Our world buffs are kind of the same. We have DMF still, and replacing the Nomer/BFD buff is the new Sunken Temple buff. You can get this in Booty Bait or Yojamba, I believe. And for our debuffs, we have Exposed Armor is actually pulling ahead of Homunculus now, so ideally you want to rogue in your raid using improved Exposed Armor. And then of course we have Fairy Fire and Recklessness still, Curse of Recklessness still. For our buffs, it's kind of just the same as the previous phase. You really want to Feral in your raid. The class is kind of unplayable without Mangle because you do so much bleed damage now. Leader of their pack is an added bonus, not really like mandatory. And with True Shot Aura, this is from a marksmanship hunter in your group. You want a 10% stats buff, whether it be Lion or Kings. And if you're Horde, you want to have a Shaman dropping Grace of Air and Strength of Earth. If you're Alliance, you're just going to get, Blessing of Might from the Paladin. And whether you're Alliance or Horde, you want to have Wild Strike / Wind Fury. Once again, the class is unplayable without this, basically. You're getting 20% more main hand damage. Oh, I don't know if I talked about Songflower, but Songflower, you get in Felwood as a world buff. You can boon it and take it to the raid with you. A couple more consumables. We have Limited Invulnerability Potion. This could save your life and save your world buffs. This is completely invaluable. Probably the best consumable in the game. You pop it and you get a mini Blessing of Protection. You're just immune to physical damage. You're wiped from the threat table. This will save your life and save your world buffs. We have new potion, Mighty Rage Potion. This is might be a little bit expensive on some servers. If you don't have the gold for this, you can just use like the older Rage Potions. Since we're going to be engineering, we're going to have Goblin Sapper Charges. These are like really good, free damage, especially on AoE. They have a long cooldown though, so when they're on cooldown, we can use Dense Dynamite, which is a 1-minute cooldown. And then for Dual Wield, we're going to sharpen our offhand with a Dense Sharpening Stone. Now for our professions, we still want to be Blacksmithing and Engineering. The Phase 2 helm from Blacksmithing is actually still very strong because you can pair this with Deathwish and Wreck and Flagellation. We also get a new item called Shoulder Plates of Dread. They're really good statted shoulders with another AP proc. Do note that this proc doesn't stack with the helm, so you want to not pop the helm when the shoulders proc, ideally. And for engineering, we get these new bracers that are basically best in slot. They're equal to or maybe a little bit better than the Warsong Exalted bracers. We also get to keep Hyperconductive Gold Wrap from Phase 2, which is the belt that is also still best in slot. And on top of that, we get these Goblin Zapper charges and Dense Dynamites, which is just free damage. Now, as I said earlier in the video, two-hand is a viable spec we can play. It is very good. Some rank 1 parsers are running arms. I think the best thing about arms is it's 2-target cleave with sweeping strikes and it's burst AoE. And there's actually a couple fights where we can like really abuse that in the raid. It also does really solid single target. The only downfall is it doesn't have Death Wish. So on a really short fight, it's just gonna fall behind Fury. Luckily for us, we have dual spec, so we can just play whatever we want. This is the spec we're going to be running with two-hand. It's pretty straightforward. We take all the damage talents from arms, and then with the extra 10, we just go down Fury. There's really nothing else we can get. There's like no build variation at all. If you have an axe, you're going to put an axe spec, but you get a really good sword from just Stranglethorn Veil. So you'll probably be sword spec the entire phase. For our head rune, we're going to take Taster Blood. This lets us get a free overpower every 6 seconds as long as we maintain Rend. For our chest rune, we keep Flagellation. For our new wrist rune, we're going to keep Wrecking Crew. Wrecking Crew is just, it's going to have 100% uptime because you're going to be critting every 6 seconds with overpower. So this is just like straight up free damage. You don't have to spend rage on it or a global like Rampage. It's just always up. For our hand rune, we're going to use Endless Rage. I've heard talks of Quick Strike, but in practice, I haven't really had any free globals to be using Quick Strike. So for now, we're just going to run Endless Rage. For our waist, we're going to keep Precise Timing because it's just better than Blood Surge. For our legs, we keep Frenzied Assault. And for our foot, we keep Rallying Cry. For arms, we're going to want to get to 6% hit. You can get hit cap pretty easily with like the pre-raid Bisque gear. Any hit past 6% is completely useless for two-hand, so keep that in mind. And then once you're hit capped, you just, go for strength, crit, agility gear. It's pretty straightforward what you use. You're just going to use the items with the most stats on them. Like your stat weights are going to change depending on the rest of your gear, so there's no like set in stone stat priority other than wanting to get 6% hit. I'm going to post these in the description. I have a bunch of like gear sets that I'll just post. Not really going to get into it too much. I'll talk about enchants a little bit, I guess. Our best two-handed enchant is Crusader. Now, Crusader is technically in the game, but there is almost a 0% chance that you'll ever get it. So our second best enchant is going to be 25 agility, but this is also going to be like really expensive. So what I recommend is going for Iron Counterweight, which is a 3% haste, which is what I'm using. Same with bracers. If you can't get 9 strength, just go down to 7. For the gloves, if you can't get 7 strength, go down to 7 agi or 1% attack speed. They're pretty similar. For our boots, we just have an agility enchant. If you're speedrunning, go for movement speed. It's just a better stat. There's a new shoulder enchant from the raid. You get an alchemist to craft something and you turn it in ZG Island. Now for the two-handed rotation, different from phase 2, we're actually going to be sitting in battle sense most of the time because we need to keep up Rend and use overpower now. I think the ideal opener, personally, is run in, Rend, Berserker Stance, Berserker Rage, Battle Stance, Overpower. That way, you can get up your Rend, which does no damage. Your Rend is solely there to proc your Overpower. You can go Berserker Stance and Berserker Rage. And by that point, by the time you're back in Battle Stance ready to press your buttons, the boss should be fully debuffed. So you should have Homunculus or Expose, Fairy Fire, and Curse of Recklessness, and you're ready to blast. Now, the main thing about Warrior is just keeping your buttons on cooldown. You want to use as many Berserker Rages and Blood Rages as possible throughout a fight, probably prioritizing them towards the end for that extra execute damage. And you want to make sure you're using Overpower, Mortal Strike, and Slam on cooldown. I'm still pretty rusty at this. I don't really even remember to keep up Rend, and you'll see me like go into Berserker Stance more often than I should. I went to Berserker Stance here to Berserker Rage, but I noticed I had full rage still, so I just stayed for a little bit for the extra crit and tried to dump my rage. But we really just want to maintain Rend. We want to press Overpower, Mortal Strike, and Slam in that order. And then with free globals, if you have empty globals, you can hamstring. And to avoid rage capping, you can Heroic Strike. You notice here I'm just like getting tons of rage from these Wind Fury procs, and the rage gen in Sunken Temple is just crazy. When it gets to execute, you're just going to press execute and overpower and keep up Rend. Even if you get, I think, 1 extra overpower from putting up a Rend, it's worth it. Overpower is by far your best damage per rage ability. like in the game, like by a lot. So getting those overpowers during execute is just really nice. Yeah, pretty straightforward. Just you got to get used to not going Berserker Stance. You will go Berserker Stance for AoE whenever you need to Whirlwind, and whenever you need to Berserker Rage. That's about it. Notice here I put up the Rend again. I'm going to get to overpower here in a couple seconds. Cheeky little fap here to avoid this Hammer of Justice. Switch the Berserker Sense to Berserker Rage for Flagellation. Just start cranking the boss. Rend falls off here. Hopefully I'm smart enough to press Rend. I might not though. I do need to remember. Then right here I should be pressing Blood Rage because he's about to die. The time to kill is 14 seconds, but he's probably going to shoot down pretty fast. And it's a crank. So the main thing is you want to sit in Battle Sense, not Berserker Stance. A lot of people ask this question often. I guess it's not super straightforward. You're going to be sitting in Battle Sense because you have to overpower every 6 seconds. And just stancing that much is just not viable. You're going to be dumping tons of rage. With the exception of casting Berserker Rage and Recklessness. Now, on a fight with AoE, we're going to need to utilize Whirlwind more, so we're going to be stancing just a little bit more. The priority is kind of the same, though. You want to use Blood Rage and Berserker Rage as much as you can throughout a fight. Ideally, you pair it with Sweeping Strikes, because if I'm not mistaken, it still double dips, and you're just getting an extra 5 attacks, basically. So that's really strong. You can see here I'm chaining my Flagellation, sitting in Battle Stance, keeping up Rend, using Overpower on cooldown, and free globals I'll hit a Hamstring. I had to go there to pummel that just in case, you know. I have 6 Shamans and then I'll press Earthshock. As soon as these ads spawn, I Sweeping Strikes and go for the Whirlwind Cleave. I think I actually... Yeah, if this came... I probably should have waited half a second to Sweeping Strikes, or maybe when this ad got closer, so I could get like full value of this Flagellation Sweeping Strikes. It was just pretty unlucky timing on my part. I'm gonna cleave these down. The boss is giving me the damage right now, so we're just focusing on these ads. Keep in mind that you don't need to rend multiple targets. As long as you have one rend active, it's gonna be proccing your Taster Blood. That's why I didn't rend any of those ads there. The rend is on the boss and it's proccing Taster Blood, and I get to overpower the ads. Now, you know, there's nothing. Just wait for the boss to take damage again. I immediately go over here to hit this ad because I think it takes damage before the boss does. Now, as the ads group up, I go Berserker Stance, I hit Berserker Rage, and I'm going to hit a Whirlwind here. They all get evaporated. If they survived, I would go Battle Stance, Sweeping Strikes, and just do damage, and they would just die passively. Which is probably what I should be doing next. Another unfortunate Sweeping Strikes here with like 1 second left on Blood Rage. Depending on your raid, you can greed it a little bit more. In my raid, I was scared of the ads dying instantly, so I just sent it. Here again, we just hit the ads. I have a rend up, so I don't need to rend anything else. I probably should have rended the boss if I was super min-maxing here. That way I wouldn't have to cast another rend. But it looks like it's going to end up not mattering anyway because I don't even get a second overpower. So yeah, basically it's the same as single target, except you're going to swap stance. It's a Whirlwind. You eat the sleep here. I should be looking to cleave these Scale Banes. One thing about Sweeping Strikes a lot of people don't know, Sweeping Strikes is based off of your hitbox, not the target's hitbox. So if you want your Sweeping Strikes to hit a mob, you need to be inside that mob's hitbox. Which can be a problem. I actually walk out here to Sweeping Strikes these. I think they're killing my healers, so go out here to drop a Sweeping Strikes. Cleave. Should have Whirlwinded. I noticed that I was out of rage, so I rage spotted, so I could press Whirlwind, cover up the mistake. Yeah. I don't think it's worth refreshing Battle Shot with this. A little bit left of the boss. But yeah, that's still big damage. A couple mess ups. But arms is just so, warriors are so strong on Sunken Temple that it doesn't even matter. Now for dual wield. Dual wield, we're actually gonna play a weird hybrid spec that doesn't actually take Bloodthirst. We're going to go down into Deep Wounds. And once we're down in Deep Wounds, we're going to go down, take all the good Fury stuff, and take Flurry. Deep Wounds will be anywhere between like 20 to 30% of your damage on fights. It is just an absurdly good talent. It's more than makes up for the damage loss for the 2 points in Flurry and 1 in Bloodthirst. For our runes, we're not really going to utilize a head rune. So you can just use Vigilance or you can use Sword and Board. There are talks of switching to a shield for Execute. I don't really know more about that. When I do find out, I'll probably put it in the comments and like pin it or something. But for now, we don't really worry about the head rune. We use Flagellation and Wrecking Crew. I do see a world where Rampage might be good, but Wrecking Crew right now is just... It's simming higher, and you don't have to think about it. For chest, we use Flagellation. I don't know if I mentioned that. Hands, we use Single-Minded Fury, always. Waste, we have Blood Surge. There are also talks of Precise Timing being better than Blood Surge, but Blood Surge has sims higher, or is simming higher right now. For legs, we have Consumed by Rage, and then for foot, it's not a DPS rune, but we take Rallying Cry. For the gear, it's basically the same as arms. You want to go for 6% hit. A minor difference is hit above 6% for dual wield has like some value, whereas for arms it has 0 value. And once again, I've posted all of these like sets in the description. Now Fury plays a little bit differently than in phase 2 because we don't have Bloodthirst. What we're gonna do is we're gonna prioritize using as many flagellations as possible throughout the fight, pairing them with Death Wish and Recklessness when we can. You'll notice during this fight, since I'm not really familiar with the fight link, that I'm gonna brick my cooldowns completely. But Warrior is so strong that it doesn't even matter. Ideally, I would say you want to Death Wish, Berserker Rage after, then Recklessness. So I'm thinking Recklessnessing 27 seconds before the end of a fight is actually going to be better than wrecking the last 15 seconds of a fight. You may lose some Execute damage, but I think you make up for that in Death Wish damage. When you Recklessness at the end of the fight, you risk those Deep Wounds not ticking. And I've actually simmed it, and it did come out to be a little bit better when you did it 27 seconds before the fight ended. One really important thing is you want to have Flagellation up during your Recklessness and Death Wish. Like, I mess it up here, and I lose probably like 1,000 DPS, maybe more than that. Aside from the cooldowns, we want to prioritize Slam procs, then Whirlwind, then Hamstring, then Heroic Strike, while keeping up Consumed by Rage. When you have world buffs and debuffs, it's almost impossible to mess this up. You have infinite rage. You can see I'm Heroic Striking every main hand. But if I do risk dropping Consumed by Rage for a little bit, I will stop and just auto attack. Now Morphas is a weird fight because he has like a big damage amp phase where you want to save all your cooldowns for. And since once again the raid is pretty new, I severely misjudged the like the window. So you're gonna see me like I Blood Rage on pull and I'm not gonna have it for the burn. I also wreck way too late. I'm gonna press Death Wish here, and you can just look at the meter. It's an absolute joke how good this spec is. Just pressing Hamstring, Heroic Strike, Hamstring, forgetting to Diamond Flask because I'm bad. Wreck, and then Flagellation, 18.5k, 18.5k. Just spamming Execute, doing infinite DPS. Ideally, if I had known the fight length, like I said, I would have probably pre-Death Wished going into this damage amp phase. Immediately popped Recklessness, immediately Blood Rage, and just gone to town. Here's a little clip of the first boss. This boss dies in about 30 seconds, and you're really just going to see how powerful this spec is on these short fights. Death Wish is an incredible cooldown. It synergizes really well with Flagellation and Recklessness, and you're just going to see this boss get annihilated. You want to Death Wish the last 30 seconds of a fight. You probably want to Recklessness the last 27 seconds of the fight, like I said. And then you want to pair Blood Rage and Berserker Rage with that Recklessness Death Wish. And just annihilate the boss. I'm going to go in, pre-Berserker Rage. And just, you know, Heroic Strike, Whirlwind. If I get a Slam proc, I'll pair with the Slam proc. When I don't have Slam and nothing else suppress, I'm going to Hamstring. Hamstring procs Deep Wounds and Flurry and Wind Fury. So it's actually like a big deal to Hamstring. I've seen some logs not using Hamstring. They're literally throwing hundreds of DPS away by not using Hamstring. It's very important. We're going to make sure we keep up CBR, which is basically a joke. Right now, I'm kind of panicked. I'm worried about pulling aggro and dying. I forget to Blood Rage. But this spec, I mean, this warriors are just so good, it doesn't even matter. Forget the Diamond Flask because I have no indicator. One thing for this boss, you can actually limit it Invulnerability Potion, and you avoid this knockback entirely. I don't know if it's really important for warrior because you can just intercept back, but that's something to note. It also makes sure the boss doesn't turn around and one-shot you during the threat drop, so that's something you might want to think about if you want to keep your world buffs. But yeah, you can just look at the damage, and you're literally doing Sunwall DPS on this boss. The last thing I want to talk about is the Gladiator spec. It plays really similar to dual wield. I don't have any footage, but basically instead of using Hamstring, you're going to use Devastate, and you have no slam procs. That's about it. During execute, you're just going to spam execute. The spec is a little bit different because you don't have an offhand. You can go improve cleave and then improve execute. This isn't really going to be that big a deal, but the execute DPS could be a little bit. We use Shield Mastery Head Rune because we're playing with a shield on. Oh, this should be Gladiator stance. We play with Flagellation, Wrecking Crew, Devastate because we're going to be using Sunder Armor as a filler. Focus Rage because it's not worth using Slam over Devastate. Devastate just does more damage. Consumed by Rage because it's the only leg rune we can use. And Gladiator stance because it's the, that's the whole spec. Basically, yeah, I don't know. If you want to play this spec, it's really good. It's probably really similar to dual wield. You just wear a shield. Probably just want to use a shield with, big strength and agility on it. And you just press Devastate instead of Hamstring. That's about it.